Welcome. We're about to dive into a really fascinating and, I gotta say, pretty challenging way of looking at the state of our world. The idea is that the constant stream of crises we see isn't random at all. Instead, they might be signs of a massive transformation that was predicted in ancient prophecies. So let's just explore this idea. What if all the chaos we see isn't really chaos?
And that's really the big question this perspective tries to answer. You know that feeling, right? That things are just breaking down, agreements fail, new conflicts pop up, and any solution feels like a band-aid. Well, the viewpoint we're digging into today asks, what if this was all supposed to happen? What if it's part of some huge cosmic pattern that's unfolding right in front of us?
So to even begin to answer a question that big, this particular perspective turns to two specific prophecies from the Christian Bible. And the argument here is that these aren't just dusty old texts. They're actually living frameworks that can help us decode what's happening right now.
Okay, the first prophecy comes from the book of Isaiah. And the language is, incredibly direct. Take counsel together, but it will come to nothing. Just think about that for a second. That is a bold claim. It's basically saying that all our human efforts, all our plans for unity are destined to fall apart. This ancient verse becomes a really powerful lens to look at our modern world through.
So, according to this interpretation, that prophecy points directly to what we see on the news every single day. International summits that end in gridlock, political promises that just seem to evaporate, this general feeling that humanity just can't agree on a path forward. From this point of view, the breakdown of consensus isn't just a political failure, it's actually a prophesied sign that a completely different authority is about to take over.
Now, the second key prophecy brings in a different kind of sign. This one isn't focused on world events, but on two symbolic groups of people, the quick and the dead. Now hold on, because according to this interpretation, this has nothing to do with physical life and death. No, it's pointing to something else entirely, a specific state of spiritual awareness.
Okay, so here's where the definitions become really important. The quick are seen as those who are spiritually awakening, who are actively looking for knowledge. The dead, on the other hand, well, they're the ones who are spiritually asleep, kinda indifferent to anything beyond the day-to-day material world, and not aligned with what the source calls the will of God.
And this is how it connects to our world right now. This perspective looks at all the protests and the passionate demands for change and sees it as a sign that people are finally waking up from this long, deep sleep. But, and this is a big but, it comes with a critical warning. Just being woke in a social or political sense, that's not enough. Without seeking deeper spiritual knowledge and trying to align with divine will, a person can still be, in the language of this prophecy, spiritually dead.
So remember how that prophecy mentioned judging the quick and the dead? Yeah, that word, it often brings up these images of condemnation and punishment. But the perspective we're exploring here completely flips that on its head. It argues that we should see judgment not as some final verdict, but as a profound opportunity.
We all know this version, right? The gavel comes down, a final, irreversible decision is made. It's a concept that, let's be honest, usually inspires fear. But the prophetic view we're looking at offers a radically different take.
So instead of one single event, it's laid out as a four-step process. First, it starts with an assessment of our inner state, our real attitudes. Then, that leads to a revelation, where our true selves are kind of forced out into the open for everyone to see. But here's the crucial part. Step 3 is opportunity. It's a chance to see the truth about ourselves and to change. And only after that chance is given do the natural consequences just automatically take effect. It's a system that's really built around self-correction, not condemnation.
And the consequence itself isn't some arbitrary punishment. This perspective describes it more like a natural law. Anything that's in harmony with creation is sustained by it. And anything that isn't, well, it simply can't be maintained. It's less of a sentence and more like a matter of spiritual physics.
So if this is all a matter of spiritual physics, then what's the force causing all this friction and chaos? Well, that brings us right to the core conflict that drives this entire narrative, the ultimate showdown between what we want, human will, and what the source calls divine will.
So on one side, you have human will. That's our ambitions, our plans, our man-made utopias, and this fundamental belief that we are the ultimate authority. And on the other side, you have divine will, which is described as unconditional and totally uncompromising laws of creation. The argument here is that these two forces are fundamentally incompatible. They just can't coexist.
This whole idea is really captured in a quote from the author Abdrshen, who is central to this material. He writes that it's just wrong to say many roads lead to the light.
He claims only a single one leads there. And that one way, he argues, requires unconditional alignment with the divine will. In this view, there's just no room for compromise. At all.
And this leads to a really subtle but incredibly powerful distinction. This perspective argues that serving humanity, giving people what they want, is not the same thing as serving God. Because true spiritual help, it suggests, often means guiding people toward that unconditional will, not just fulfilling their temporary earthly desires.
So if you've got this epic clash of wills, where does it all lead? What's the endgame? Well, according to these prophecies, the final outcome of this great judgment and realignment is nothing less than the establishment of a totally new reality here on earth.
And according to this interpretation, the kingdom of God isn't just a peaceful feeling in your heart. Nope. It's described as a literal system of governance, a kingdom where the divine will is the supreme enforced law that absolutely everything and everyone must follow.
Let's just pause on that for a second. In our modern age, which is so defined by individualism and the belief that humanity is the ultimate authority, the idea of submitting to a higher, uncompromising will is maybe the most radical, foreign concept you could possibly imagine.
And that really leaves us with this final, very challenging thought. In a world that is completely built on the idea of personal freedom and self-determination, the source asks us to seriously consider a reality based on the exact opposite principle. What does it actually mean to live by a will that is not your own? It's a question that cuts to the very core of our modern identity, and it's definitely one worth thinking about. Thanks for joining me.